The desperate alliance, the research vessel. Scientific endeavor screamed through the atmosphere of Xerion 7 like a falling star, its hull glowing cherry red from atmospheric friction. Dr. Marcus Chen gripped his crash harness as the ship bucked and rolled through the ion storm, emergency klaxons wailing their death song throughout the cabin. Hull breach in sections 4 through 7, the ship's AI announced with mechanical calm. Life support failure imminent. Brace for impact. Marcus closed his eyes and thought of Earth, of the university lab where he'd spent countless hours studying alien biology samples. He'd volunteered for this deep space research mission to study the frozen ecosystems of distant worlds, never imagining he'd become a specimen himself. The impact came like a giant's fist, throwing him against his restraints as the world went. Dark, cold, bitter, bone-deep cold that made his breath come in painful gasps. Marcus forced his eyes open to find the ship's cabin split wide, frigid air pouring through twisted metal like the breath of winter itself. Frost already covered the control panels, and his instruments showed the outside temperature at -80 degrees Fahrenheit. In this kind of cold, he had maybe 30 minutes before hypothermia claimed him. He struggled out of his harness with numb fingers, grabbing the emergency kit and thermal blanket. Every breath felt like inhaling glass shards, and he could already feel his coordination slipping. This was how explorers died on alien worlds, not from exotic diseases or hostile life forms, but from simple, merciless physics. That's when he saw her. At first, Marcus thought his oxygen-starved brain was hallucinating. Through the swirling snow outside the breach, a figure approached. Tall, graceful, definitely not human. As she drew closer, he could see her clearly despite the blizzard. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with elegant limbs and smooth skin that seemed to shimmer with a faint blue luminescence. Intricate crystalline patterns traced along her neck and arms like living tattoos, and her hair fell in silver-white waves past her shoulders. She wore what looked like form-fitting armor made from some kind of metallic fabric, and a curved blade hung at her side. When their eyes met through the storm, Marcus felt his heart skip. Her eyes were like polished sapphires, ancient and intelligent. "You are hurt, small star traveler," she said in accented but clear English, her voice carrying a melodic quality that seemed almost musical. "Your metal shell cries in the cold wind. You can see that," Marcus managed through chattering teeth. Are you here to help or kill me?" The alien tilted her head, and something that might have been amusement flickered across her elegant features. "Death comes swift enough on the ice moon without my assistance. I am Zarath of the Velkari. My own vessel sleeps broken in the valley below. It seems we share misfortune." Relief flooded through Marcus as he realized she was stranded too. "Dr. Marcus Chen, xenobiologist. My ship's life support is gone. In this cold, we're both dead within the hour." Zarath stepped closer, and Marcus noticed she seemed less affected by the brutal temperature. Her breath misted in the air, but she moved with fluid grace while he could barely keep his hands steady. "Your people are fragile things," she observed, "but clever. You know the cold death approaches?" "Hypothermia, yes. Body temperature drops, organs shut down, brain function deteriorates." Even explaining it, Marcus could feel his words slurring slightly. "We need shelter, warmth, or we're finished." "There is a place," Zarath said, already moving toward the breach. "Ancient dig tunnels in the rock face. Your people's mining scars. Some have power still." Marcus grabbed what supplies he could carry and followed her into the howling storm. The wind cut through his thermal suit like it was paper, and within minutes he was stumbling through the snow, his legs increasingly unsteady. Zarath stayed close beside him, one strong hand occasionally steadying him when he faltered. "How are you not freezing?" he gasped during a brief lull in the wind. "Velkari blood runs warm," she replied. "We evolved on ice worlds. This is uncomfortable but not deadly for us." The abandoned mining outpost was a welcome sight, a cluster of prefabricated buildings half buried in snowdrifts. Zarath broke the lock on the main structure with casual strength, and they hurried inside. Emergency power flickered to life, providing minimal heat and lighting. Marcus collapsed onto a supply crate, his whole body shaking uncontrollably. Even inside, he could see his breath, and his fingers were losing feeling despite his gloves. Zareth studied him with those penetrating sapphire eyes, then began removing her outer armor with efficient movements. "Your garments are insufficient," she stated matter-of-factly. "Shared body warmth is required for your survival." Marcus's scientific mind understood the logic even as his human embarrassment kicked in. Skin-to-skin contact was the most efficient way to transfer heat, a basic survival technique, but the alien woman before him was striking in ways that made the clinical approach difficult. Are you sure that's—" he began, but another violent shiver cut off his words. "Velkari do not offer life bonds lightly," Zareth said, already pulling emergency blankets from wall storage. "But neither do we watch fellow travelers die from foolish modesty. Remove your cold clothes, Star Scholar. We preserve life first, dignity second." Marcus's numbing fingers fumbled with his suit clasps until Zareth stepped forward to help. Her touch was warm against his skin, almost fever-hot compared to his own temperature, when she wrapped the thermal blankets around both of them, pulling his shivering form against her radiantly warm body. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. "Better?" she asked softly, her arms circling him with surprising gentleness for someone so obviously dangerous. "Much," Marcus managed, feeling sensation return to his extremities as her body heat soaked into him. "Thank you. You saved my life." "We save each other," Zareth corrected. "I have food and warmth. You have knowledge of the old machines, both needed for survival." They spent the first night pressed together under the blankets, Marcus's back against Zareth's chest as she shared her natural warmth. He tried to maintain scientific detachment, but it was difficult to ignore how perfectly they seemed to fit together, or how her breath on his neck sent shivers through him that had nothing to do with cold. "Tell me of your people," Zareth murmured, in the darkness. "Why do you travel so far from your warm worlds?" "Curiosity," Marcus replied. "We want to understand the universe, all the different forms life can take. I study how organisms adapt to extreme environments. And now you experience such adaptation yourself." He could hear the smile in her voice. "Your people value knowledge over safety?" "Some of us do. The ones willing to risk everything to learn something new." Marcus paused, then added, "Why were you out here? This doesn't seem like Velkari territory." Zareth was quiet for a long moment. "I flee an unwanted bond ceremony. My clan leaders would marry me to strengthen alliances. I choose exile over slavery. So we're both running from something," Marcus observed. "Perhaps running toward something instead," Zareth suggested quietly. Over the next 2 days, they settled into a survival routine. Marcus worked on restoring more of the outpost's systems, while Zareth hunted for additional supplies and improved their shelter's defenses. They shared their emergency rations, and Marcus found himself looking forward to their meals together as they taught each other words from their respective languages. Zareth was fascinated by his scientific equipment, asking careful questions about how humans studied other species. In return, she shared stories of Velkari warrior culture and their honor codes. Marcus learned that her crystalline markings weren't tattoos but actual living crystal formations that grew with age and achievement. "Among my people I am considered small," she admitted one evening as they prepared for sleep. "Velkari females average 8 feet in height." "You seem plenty tall to me," Marcus said, then realized how that sounded. "I mean, from a human perspective. We tend to be shorter overall." "Your height suits you," Zareth replied. "Efficient proportions for your species, and your mind is large enough for both of us." The compliment warmed him more than it should have. Each night they continued sharing body heat for survival, but Marcus noticed the purely practical arrangement was becoming something more complex. Zareth would trace the scars on his hands from lab accidents while he slept, and he found himself studying the play of light across her crystalline markings. On the third night, as another blizzard howled outside their shelter, Zareth spoke quietly in the darkness. "Among the Velkari, when 2 warriors share survival warmth for more than one turning of the sky, it is considered a trial bonding. A test to see if souls are compatible. Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs. What does that mean exactly? It means, Zarath said, her arms tightening slightly around him, that what began as necessity may become something chosen freely. Marcus turned in her arms to face her, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in those sapphire eyes. The space between them seemed charged with possibility, dangerous and wonderful in equal measure. I never expected this, he whispered. Any of this. Nor I, Zarath admitted. But perhaps the universe has its own wisdom in bringing two exiles together. Outside, the storm raged with renewed fury. But inside their shelter, wrapped in each other's warmth, Marcus felt safer than he had in years. Whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together. As sleep took him, Marcus's last coherent thought was that survival had somehow become the least important reason for staying close to the remarkable alien woman who held him. The real danger wasn't the cold anymore. It was how much he was beginning to care for someone from an entirely different world. But some risks he was learning were worth taking. Beyond survival, the rescue ships arrived simultaneously on the 7th day, their landing thrusters melting the snow around the mining outpost into steaming puddles. Marcus watched through the shelter's small window as two very different vessels settled onto Zarian 7's frozen surface. The sleek, organic curves of a Velkari warship contrasting sharply with the angular, utilitarian design of the human science. Vessel Meridian. It seems our solitude ends, Zarath observed, standing beside him. Over the past week, they had grown comfortable with casual contact. Her hand now rested naturally on his shoulder, and he could feel the warmth radiating from her crystalline markings. Are you ready for this? Marcus asked, turning to study her profile. The past few days had changed everything between them. What began as desperate survival had evolved into something neither had expected. They had shared not just warmth, but stories, fears, dreams, and finally, carefully tentative kisses that tasted of starlight and possibilities. The question is whether they are ready for us, Zarath replied, her sapphire eyes reflecting concern. Your people will not understand our bond, nor will mine. Through the window, Marcus could see figures emerging from both ships. The humans wore environmental suits against the cold, while the Velkari moved with easy grace in form-fitting armor that seemed to generate its own heat. Even at this distance, he could see the tension in their postures as the two groups faced each other across the landing field. Dr. Chen? A familiar voice crackled through the outpost's restored communication system. This is Captain Rodriguez. Of the Meridian, we're picking up your beacon. Are you injured? Marcus hesitated, looking at Zarath. Once he answered that call, their private world would end and the complications would begin. She nodded encouragingly, though he could see worry in her eyes. I'm here, Captain, he replied into the communicator. Alive and unharmed. I'm not alone. There's a Velkari survivor with me. We've been helping each other survive. The pause that followed stretched uncomfortably long. Copy that, Doctor. We're aware of the Velkari vessel. There's a situation developing. We need you to come out slowly, hands visible. A situation? Marcus muttered, but Zarath was already moving toward her weapon harness. War leader Thektar leads the rescue force, she said grimly, checking her blade. My betrothed, chosen by the clan elders. He will not be pleased to find me unclaimed. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Betrothed. You never mentioned. Because I rejected the bond, Zarath interrupted. Why do you think I was fleeing when my ship crashed? But Thektar is proud and traditional. He will see my survival with you as complicated. They dressed quickly, Zarath donning her full armor while Marcus pulled on his cleanest uniform. As they prepared to leave their shelter, Zarath caught his hand in hers. Whatever happens out there, know that these days with you have been precious to me, Marcus Chen. You have shown me that bonds can form from choice rather than duty. Marcus squeezed her fingers, marveling at how natural it felt despite their species differences. Same here, I've never felt this connected to anyone. They stepped outside together, and the weight of two civilizations' expectations immediately settled on their shoulders. The human team was led by Captain Rodriguez, a stern woman Marcus recognized from the expedition briefings. Beside her stood Dr. Patricia Valdez, the mission's chief xenobiologist, and 2 armed security officers. The Velkari group was more imposing. War leader Thektar stood 8.5 feet tall, his crystalline markings darker and more elaborate than Zarath's, indicating high rank. His armor was ceremonial as well as functional, decorated with battle honors. 2 other warriors flanked him, their hands resting on weapon hilts. "Dr. Chen," Captain Rodriguez called out, relief evident in her voice. "Thank God you're alive. We've been searching for 6 days. Zarath of the Velkari kept me alive," Marcus replied loudly enough for both groups to hear. "I owe her my life." Thektar's eyes narrowed as he focused on Zarath. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of command, but Marcus noticed it was directed only at her, not acknowledging his presence at all. "Zarath of the Frostwalker clan, you have brought dishonor by fleeing your bonding ceremony. I have come to reclaim what was promised to me by your elders." Zarath stepped forward, her posture shifting to the formal stance Marcus had seen her practice. "I acknowledge no bond made without my consent, Thektar. I choose exile over slavery." "Slavery?" Thektar's crystalline markings flared brighter, a sign of anger Marcus had learned to recognize. "You were offered the highest honor, marriage to a war leader, status beyond most females' dreams. Dreams I never shared." Zarath replied coolly. "I have found something worth more than status or clan approval." The tension between the 2 groups was palpable as Thektar's gaze finally shifted to Marcus. "You dare to involve yourself in Velkari affairs, human? She is promised to me by sacred law." "With respect," Marcus said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Zarath made her own choices. I didn't manipulate or coerce her into anything. We survived together, and that survival became something more meaningful." "More meaningful?" Dr. Valdez stepped forward, her expression concerned. "Marcus, you've been isolated for a week with an alien. You may be experiencing psychological effects, Stockholm Syndrome, trauma bonding. We need to get you back to the ship for proper evaluation." Marcus felt his temper flare. "My psychological state is fine, Patricia. I'm a xenobiologist. I understand interspecies contact protocols. What happened here went far beyond professional interaction." Captain Rodriguez looked between the human and Velkari groups with growing alarm. "Dr. Chen, we need to discuss this privately. The political implications of whatever relationship you've formed could be severe." "There are no political implications to discuss," Thektar announced. "The female returns with me. Your human will forget this aberration and continue his small life." That was the wrong thing to say. Marcus saw Zarath's hands clench into fists, her crystalline markings beginning to glow with inner light, a sign of rising battle readiness he'd learned to recognize. "I return with no one who does not respect my choices," she declared. "And I will not tolerate insults to one who has become precious to me." The word precious hit both groups like a physical blow. Marcus saw understanding dawn on Captain Rodriguez's face, while Thektar's expression shifted from anger to dangerous fury. "You dare to claim bond right with this soft creature?" Thektar snarled. "He is not even worthy to serve as a Velkari's battle servant." "He is worthy to be my chosen mate," Zarath replied, her voice carrying the formal tones of a legal declaration. "By the ancient laws of the Velkari, I claim bond right through shared survival, mutual respect, and freely given affection. I name Marcus Chen as my heart's choice." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus felt the weight of both crews staring at them, processing the implications. In Velkari culture, as Zarath had explained to him during their long talks, such a formal declaration carried legal weight. It couldn't be dismissed or overruled by clan politics. "This is impossible," Dr. Valdez breathed. "Interspecies marriage. The genetic incompatibility alone." "Love doesn't require genetic compatibility," Marcus interrupted, surprising himself with his boldness. "It requires understanding, respect, and choice, all of which we have." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, her command authority clear. Dr. Chen, I'm ordering you to return to the ship immediately. We'll sort this out in a proper diplomatic setting. With respect, Captain, I'm a civilian contractor, not military personnel. You can't order me to abandon someone I care about. Thektar had heard enough. His hand moved to his weapon hilt, crystalline markings blazing with rage. No human will steal what belongs to the Velkari, but Zarath was faster. She stepped between Marcus and the war leader, her own blade half-drawn, stance perfectly balanced for combat. Nothing belongs to you, Thektar, least of all me. If you wish to challenge my choice, do so according to honor law. Marcus's mind raced. This was spiraling toward violence, and while he trusted Zarath's skills, he knew that a fight here would destroy any chance for peaceful resolution. Wait, he called out. There's another way. Both groups turned to him, and Marcus felt the weight of two civilizations' futures on his shoulders. This moon has valuable mineral deposits, doesn't it? And both our peoples could benefit from studying its ecosystem. What if, instead of fighting over personal matters, we established a joint research colony? Impossible, Captain Rodriguez and Thektar said simultaneously, then glared at each other for the agreement. Is it? Marcus continued, warming to his theme. Zarath has warrior training and survival skills. I have xenobiology expertise and technical knowledge. Together, we've already proven that humans and Velkari can work effectively as partners. Make us co-leaders of the colony. Turn our personal bond into a symbol of interspecies cooperation. Zarath's eyes lit up with understanding. The precedent would be valuable for both peoples, she added. Trade opportunities, cultural exchange, shared scientific advancement. The clan elders would never approve, Thektar protested. But Marcus noticed he hadn't rejected the idea outright. They might, if the colony proves profitable and strategic, Zarath replied. Honor satisfied through achievement rather than marriage. Captain Rodriguez was clearly torn between duty and opportunity. The potential scientific discoveries alone would justify the mission cost, she admitted reluctantly. But the political complications could be worth it, Dr. Valdez said unexpectedly. The xenobiological research opportunities here are incredible, and having a Velkari partner would provide insights we could never gain otherwise. Marcus reached for Zarath's hand, intertwining their fingers in a gesture both crews could see. We're not asking anyone to approve of our relationship, he said. We're offering to use it for everyone's benefit. Two people who chose each other, working together to build something bigger than personal happiness. Thektar studied them for a long moment, his anger slowly giving way to calculation. The War Council has been seeking new resource worlds, he admitted. A successful colony here would bring honor to all participants. Then we have a deal? Marcus asked, hardly daring to hope. Captain Rodriguez and Thektar exchanged looks, the first direct, respectful interaction between the two groups. After a moment, both nodded reluctantly. Provisional approval only, the captain warned, subject to review by both governments. Agreed, Thektar said, but the female's bond claim stands. She has chosen by law and custom. As the two crews began discussing logistics and resource allocation, Marcus and Zarath stepped aside, hands still linked. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked quietly. You're giving up your entire previous life. I gave that up the moment I decided to trust a strange human with my survival, Zarath replied, her smile warm enough to melt the ice around them. Now I gain something worth more than clan status or warrior honor. What's that? A partner who chose me for myself, not for politics or duty. A future built on shared dreams rather than others' expectations. She squeezed his hand. And the chance to explore the universe with someone who sees wonder in everything. Marcus looked around at the frozen landscape that had nearly killed them both, now bustling with activity as two species began planning a shared future. When I crashed here, I thought my story was ending. Instead, our story was just beginning, Zarath agreed, though I suspect it will be far more adventure than either of us expected. 1 year later, the Zerion 7 research colony had become the model for interspecies cooperation throughout the galaxy. Dr. Marcus Chen and war leader Zarath, now bearing the formal title of bond partners by both human and Velkari law, had proven that love could indeed transcend the boundaries between worlds. Their home, built into the same outpost where they'd first found shelter, was a blend of human technology and Velkari craftsmanship. As Marcus worked in his expanded laboratory, studying the unique crystal formations that were revolutionizing both species' understanding of biomineral processes, Zarath would often join him, her warrior's discipline perfectly complementing his scientist's patience. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked one evening as they stood together watching Zerion 7's spectacular aurora dance across the sky. "Giving up your old life for this?" Zarath pulled him closer, her natural warmth, a constant comfort against the eternal cold. "I regret nothing," she said firmly. "I chose to share survival with you. Everything else that followed was just the universe's way of rewarding that choice." As their colony prospered and their love deepened, Marcus often reflected on how strangely fate worked. He had come to Zerion 7 seeking to understand alien life, never imagining that he would find his own life's greatest treasure in the arms of someone from another world entirely. What had begun as cuddling for survival had become something neither of them had dared hope for. A love that transcended species, politics, and the vast cold spaces between stars. And when Zarath called him her husband in both languages, Marcus knew he had found not just survival, but home.